US Congress has managed to avoid a government shutdown, passing a spending bill that will fund the government through to December. Let's bring in Annalise Nielsen now from the US Capitol. Annalise, Joe Biden's major infrastructure plan still hangs in the balance.
It does indeed, Pete. This is a really critical time for Congress, and there were a few things that hit a bottleneck. And so while they've managed to kick on this one issue of running out of funding, that's only a stopgap for the next few weeks, and they're still facing the prospect of potentially not having the debt ceiling raised, and that would mean that they couldn't take out any more loans, and the US number crunch would get just that much worse. But what Congress has achieved today is heading off that potential government shutdown, which would have been an extraordinary thing. It's happened a few times before, but the extent of it this time would have been unprecedented, and especially in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic and the Delta wave in the US, it would have been a chaotic time for the Biden presidency. But their infrastructure package still hangs in the balance, and that's key to Biden's legacy of being able to promise that he delivered on all these infrastructure promises. And so what we are going to see is increasing pressure there. This is at the same time that they're trying to negotiate what's called reconciliation. Now, that's when by agreement they can pass a number of different measures that have to only be budget measures. They can't be any policy measures, and they can only last 10 years. And this is a backdoor way for many governments to try and get in some big spending promises. Even that's hanging in the balance. And a lot of it's coming down to splits within the Democrats. It's their own progressives holding it back while the Republicans stay firm. They've already said they're not helping with anything debt ceiling related. They're not going to help with any kind of budgetary recommendations beyond the infrastructure agreements that they've already said that they'll help the Biden administration with. If it sounds chaotic, it is. If it sounds complicated, it's very much so. And when asked about it, the press secretary, Jen Psaki, said that this is democracy in action.
This is how democracy works. I know it feels foreign because there wasn't much that happened over the last couple of years, but how it works is the American people elect their elected officials. The President of the United States puts forward a bold and ambitious proposal, and then everybody negotiates about it. And they have different points of view. That's how democracy should work. We're in the midst of it right now. We're not trying to paint over how messy it looks from the outside. We know that.
What's interesting here, though, is the different points of view aren't Republican and Democrat. They're within the Democrats, and it's the progressives holding things back. They want to spend more money, up to $3.5 trillion in different measures that the progressives, the moderates in the party say that they don't want to see money spent on, and that's where this crunch is coming from. One of the key players in this is Senator Joe Manchin. Now, he's a more moderate Republican. He wants the spending to be pared back, and he's one of the numbers in the Senate that they can't afford to lose because split down the middle. If the Republicans don't come over, they just need one Democrat to hold them back. This is one of the two Democrats giving Joe Biden a headache.
My top line has been 1.5 because I believe in my heart that what we can do and what the needs we have right now and what we can afford to do without basically changing our whole society to an entitlement mentality.
So, Pete, what's happening here is they've agreed to $600 billion in this infrastructure package. The progressives are trying to jam in the things they can't get in the infrastructure package into this reconciliation process. It's beyond the interest of most Americans. And so the Democrats are really relying on this to try and get as many measures as they can through before midterm elections, because they are fast creeping up next year.
All right. Annalise Nielsen from Washington, thank you.